WWE superstars make an outrageous amount of money over the course of their careers. It's no wonder some of them want to splurge on expensive things for themselves, and some of those things can get pretty crazy. In this video, we'll be talking about the most insane things that WWE wrestlers own. First up, we have CM Punk Flux Capacitor. You wouldn't expect someone of CM Punk's background as a professional wrestler to be into geek culture, but appearances can be deceiving. He frequently appears on pop culture shows like Talking Dead, the Nerdist podcast, and has even attended Comic-Con. The former WWE star owns a replica of the Flux Capacitor from Back to the Future. That's right, the gadget that allowed Marty and Doc to travel to 1955. Of course, it doesn't really allow CM Punk to travel through time, but we wouldn't put it past him. He was interviewed by Chad Hardwick of the Nerdist fame, leading the host to say that the wrestler is just like me, except he could rip someone's head off. Apart from this, CM Punk has also mentioned his collection of monster items from the classic Universal Pictures films. Next is Zack Ryder action figure collection. A lot of WWE stars seem to get into collecting for some reason. One great example is Zack Ryder, aka Matt Cardona, with his massive action figure collection. One estimate puts the total value of all the toys that he owns at over $1 million. With thousands of items in his collection, the wrestler owns Hasbro, Mattel, and LJN figures. Some of these even feature his WWE co-stars, like The Undertaker or Hulk Hogan. And it's not just wrestling figures either. Ryder owns toys from other pop culture staples too, such as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Star Wars, and Ghostbusters, featuring a Proton Pack replica as well. He started his collection back when he was just a kid, so it's no wonder that he has such an impressive assortment of toys by now. Though, we have to wonder how his wrestling buddies feel when they come over and see Ryder owns their toy versions. And now for Vince McMahon, T-Rex Skull. Former wrestler and now WWE founder and CEO Vince McMahon has amassed a lot of interesting stories to tell in his long career. One such story is the background behind how he got the T-Rex skull that he now has on display in his office. It was given to him by none other than his son-in-law and WWE star Triple H. The story goes that while shooting scenes for a movie, Triple H saw a replica T-Rex skull on set, and he was so enamored by it that he wanted to buy it. He asked the prop team for details, and he was able to get one for $6,000. He then gifted it to McMahon to impress him, which seems to have worked. You don't hang something you hate in your office to look at every single day. Although the skull is a replica, it's still insane to anyone visiting McMahon's office and seeing that giant dinosaur skull hanging on the wall. Up next, Baron Corbin Skull Collection. Speaking of skulls, here's where things get weirder. Wrestler Baron Corbin has an entire collection of actual skulls. That's right, no replicas here. He owns an assortment of genuine human skulls. Corbin is one of the most reclusive stars in the business, but he revealed this side of his personal life in an interview on the WWE series Breaking Ground. Not only that, but the wrestler is obsessed with the macabre in general. He has a separate collection of taxidermied animals, so he loves being faced with the idea of mortality every day in his own house. You'd think these hobbies would be more suited for someone like The Undertaker, and you'd be right, but Corbin went as far as to buy The Undertaker's former home. Now onto Vince McMahon, self-portrait. It's no wonder a man like Vince McMahon is on this list twice. Hanging a giant painting of yourself in your own living room is something only a true narcissist would do, and from what we hear of Mr. McMahon, it fits his profile. In some old pictures, you can see the painting hanging above his couch. What's interesting is McMahon hasn't talked about it or done any creative segments centered around the piece. The painting looks extremely professional and probably costs a lot to commission. It would make for good television, but he probably doesn't want to add to his image of being an egomaniac. This one isn't that out there, given what we know of Vince McMahon, but it's still a crazy thing to have in your own home. Continuing with this list, we have Matt Hardy, statue of his own head. While we're on the subject of narcissistic possessions, let's talk about Matt Hardy. Hardy has played many different characters and personas throughout his career in the WWE. One of these is the flashy AEW persona Big Money Matt. While Big Money Matt has been phased out now, at one point while in character, Hardy showed all of the things he owns, among which was a life-size bust of his own head. You heard that right. Matt Hardy has a 2-scale statue of his head in his house. He can be excused somewhat, as it was a present to him from his wife for his 40th birthday, so he didn't go out and make it himself. But still, it probably creeps out any guest that comes over. Next, we have Kofi Kingston Helmet Collection. This WWE superstar also has an out there collection, except instead of human skulls, it's helmets. Kofi Kingston is allegedly obsessed with headwear and owns many different varieties of helmets and hats. Among his collection is a signed Tom Brady helmet and replicas of famous movies and comic book character helmets like Thor, Iron Man, Batman, or even Darth Vader. On a WWE-sponsored trip to Afghanistan, Kofi even got a traditional helmet with goat horns and chainmail on it. He also has a decent collection of comic books, graphic novels, and even swords from series such as Final Fantasy and and Braveheart. And now for Bret Hart electric chair display. We've seen quite a few weird items owned by WWE stars so far, but this one is just freaky. In the documentary, Hitman Hart, Wrestling with the Shadows, we get a glimpse of Bret Hart sitting at home watching a man get electrocuted. Hart was asked about it by Slam because fans were curious as to what they'd seen. He replied, quote, "That would be that stupid rubber man sitting in an electric chair in my basement. You hit the switch and he goes nuts like he's getting electrocuted. We're thankful that the man in the chair is a rubber dummy, otherwise this would be on a list of the most illegal things that WWE wrestlers have done. But with someone like Bret Hart, you can never know for sure. Even if it's a rubber man getting electrocuted, owning a working electric chair in your house would put even Ted Bundy on high alert." Moving on, we have Randy Orton gun collection. The famous WWE wrestler known as the Viper has revealed his penchant for collecting firearms. He owns many different kinds of guns, from assault rifles to handguns to shotguns, or even hunting rifles. The insane part here is that the wrestler has spoken in length about his diagnosis of intermittent explosive disorder, which causes fits of intense rage. The disorder is what Orton credited for his 2009 attack on Vince McMahon. Knowing this, it's worrying that Randy Orton has enough weapons in his possession to arm a small country. Though, from the backlash that WWE received from the Pillman's Got a Gun segment, we doubt that WWE wrestlers aren't conveyed the importance of gun safety. Up now is Jerry Lawler Coca-Cola memorabilia. The King of Memphis, Jerry Lawler, is another big name on this list. With how much money he's made in his career in the WWE, you'd expect him to splurge on more standard things, maybe vintage cars like John Cena or Nike Jordans like Hulk Hogan. Lawler, however, is different. He does have a 4-car garage on his property, but instead of vehicles, it's filled with his gigantic collection of Coca-Cola items. He has bottles and cans from every corner of the world. He has Coca-Cola themed lampshades, alarm clocks, board games, toys, and anything you can think of. If Coca-Cola made it at some point, chances are you can find it in Jerry Lawler's collection. He even has a vintage Coca-Cola machine. While not as creepy or concerning as some of the other collections on this list, Lawler is worth a mention. His collection is so extensive, he's got 4 garages filled with just Coca-Cola memorabilia. And finally, Rey Mysterio, sword collection. Here we have yet another famous wrestler with an affinity for swords. Rey Mysterio is one of the most well-known wrestlers of all time. His enigmatic personality, combined with him never willingly taking off his mask, has led viewers to speculate about his personal life for years now. One thing he has in common with Kofi Kingston, apart from them both liking headgear, is swords. Mysterio has his own formidable sword collection, including one of the actual swords used in the Scorpion King movie. Mysterio has stated he'd like the movie star and his friend, The Rock, to sign the sword for him. And that's a wrap for this video. Which of these things do you think was the most interesting? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos just like this. We'll see you in the next one.